I was fascinated with during the last break that we were talking about was how I had conceptualized this project as somewhat of a documentary type thing. And what it has evolved into for me, and what I've noticed, is that the piece of art has become peripheral to the project, and that I'm a visual artist, and I'm always looking forward to a mixed media assemblage piece or a collage piece or a painting or a drawing that I do. And I was really into what it is that we were going to do with this, influenced by the music. But what I am seeing that has evolved, that this has become peripheral. That what's happened is that the videographers have just done an incredible job in the back with mixing and some of these terms maybe Tom or Pat or Paul or somebody could help me with. I mean, but what they're doing with the back, and I'm fascinated with the finished product. It's the combination of the music, it's the combination of the installation piece, the combination of the visual artist, the musical artist, the videographer artist, and I'm fascinated with it. And I think it's the cutting edge of what's happening, because at the Venice Alley.
Fascinated with cymatics. Cymatics is the study of how sound evokes shape. To give you an example, take a piece of metal and put metal filings on the surface, and then put different tones through the metal. Now as the tones changed, so did the patterns on the surface of the metal. From a six-sided star, like a sea urchin, to a five-sided shape, like a honeycomb, to a swirling design like a nautilus. Now the theory here is that tones manifestate themselves into forms that we can see, like a seashell. Another thing that is amazing to me is that color is 40 octaves higher than sound. Now the project that you're about to see is a project that explores where the origin of creativity, where it develops, and what it might have to do with sound. So what I've done is created a 23-minute original composition. Now the composition has a single theme and is played continuously for 4 hours. Now no one in the project has heard the composition. Now what we're going to do is take 6 artists, myself being one of the artists, and paint spontaneously on a canvas, a 7 by 12 foot canvas. Now the 7th artist in our group is going to be a video artist. Now he's going to be in charge of the image of what you see on the TV. The thought here is that the sound is going to evoke colors from the artists. Or maybe it'll give them a feeling of something that they've had in their past or their upbringing, something that's going to come to the surface, and then they'll put that on the painting. Basically create an environment or stimulate creativity in these people. Then in turn, the TV cameras are going to frame it a certain way or get a feeling from the image themselves, and probably also the sound too. Now in a larger sense here is that sound might have something to do with everything that we see, or that sound or frequencies in general just might have something to do with the growth and development of matter itself. Now this program is not supposed to try to prove anything, only to basically take you along on the adventure of the experience. Now we have no idea of how this project is going to progress, so you're going to find out when we find out. So I hope you enjoy.
I can hardly wait.
is something that everybody has. I don't think we get it from anywhere. I think I work with kids all the time, and they don't have to be taught to be creative. They just naturally do it. They express themselves with a little bit of help, and in every way, in everything that you do, I think that there are some creative aspects to everybody's life. Some people may be creative in their kitchen, some people may be creative in their bathroom. Everybody has an aspect of creativity that comes out in one way or the other if it doesn't come out artistically. So I think we all have that. If we use it, look for it, it's there. It's just a matter of how people use that, put it to use. I think in some cases it's actually a response to your situation or to your environment. Some people need escape in some ways to get away from things, and they are very creative in how they escape things. It's just a matter of what you need to do and how you need to express yourself, artistically or otherwise.
Creative thought originally. The only answer that I can give, having thought about it just a bit here, is that creative thought comes from a sixth sense that I can't figure out whether it's congenital or if it's environmental or if it's a process of socialization. Creativity comes for me as a process of exploring, how should I say, exploring existence. It's an existential experience for me. It's an exploration let me put it this way. As an existentialist, I believe that life is inherently meaningless, and that it is up to us to give it some meaning. But there is no rational criteria for the choices that we have in order to come up with this meaning. So for me, creativity is an exploration trying to identify the rational choices or the irrational choices as to what is available for us in order to give this inherently meaningless existence, this absurd existence, some sort of essence or some sort of a meaning. That's about all that I can come up with as to where creativity comes from, because I haven't the foggiest notion. Quite often I think it's a curse, and I believe it sometimes, and it's how we deal with it that counts.
For me, doesn't originate from anywhere. It just is. I think that it's a very visceral, heartfelt reality that I have absolutely no explanation for. I think that we take in stimulus through our whole life, we digest it, and we spit it out. That's what artists do. And the creation is the manifestation of all of that stuff. For me, it's in the moment. That's
There's no other explanation. If I'm not in the moment, if I have to figure out where it came from, then I'm not in the moment. Then it's somewhere else. For me, maintaining that is difficult, but I don't find the creative act to be a simple one. It isn't simple. I don't have an explanation. I don't know where it comes from, but I accept it, and that's my best shot.
So tell me, so far in this project, how has the sound affected the way you're switching from camera to camera, the sound, or a combination, or what do you feel about that? Can you tell me anything in words, how it's affecting your creativity?
Yeah, it affects it on two levels, because first of all, we can hear the sound, so as the tempo picks up, or as you start to use a discord or something like that, I mean, that affects how we run the switcher, or how we call the shots. But the second way is, and we can see it in here, is that as the sound is doing those kinds of things, it's affecting the artist. And a lot of what we're doing is based on what the artist is doing. So it really affects us on two levels. First of all, we follow the artist who's following the music. And secondly, we follow the music. So.
But this is a very fluid type of music. I almost feel like I'm swimming through water. And there's just hardly any resistance when it's there, and I'm excited to do the next part.
What I'd be curious to know is how the presence of the video and the cameras are affecting the artists, and if there's any relationship there.
Yeah, we're gonna have to maybe ask some artists,
because I think that as we go. As an artist becomes aware that the camera's watching what they're doing, I think that might be affecting also what's going down on the canvas. And we're getting kind of an interesting feedback loop going from sound to artist to video and back to artist again.
I think the camera's has worked in with our group just like we work with each other. Just as, if I'm doing a stroke and I've got the rhythm of the stroke going and I need to step around somebody that's painting and there's a camera there, I just step around them like another artist I'm used to working with. It's just, your thought process is only interrupted if you allow it to be. If you have a thought or a brush stroke that's going to continue someplace, the camera's not going to get in your way, neither will another artist.
Creating a feeling.
There are a couple of areas that are real strong. This area over here is strong. It's awfully dark right now. But there's a rhythm that flows between these two. This area is like out from the side, and this area is more frontal. with whirling about it. This, right in here, there's something that's cohesive about both of them. We've got an area we need to refine. I think there's some like really strong areas that we need to decide to refine.
What you have said is what I am picking up from the piece of music that you did, as far as the swirling throughout it, and then the highlights, the different focal points that you've got through the music, and then it's got the overlaying effect. You know, there's this overlaying where the music seems to, the music seems to fill in voids.
One thing I'd like to say, John, is just to go back a little bit. One of the things that's intriguing me about the camera on us is it's kind of like Magritte. This is not a painting. Well, this is not a video. This is not a painting. This is a video.
Right.
That's
Right,
fascinating. This is not a fight.
So it's like it goes a step further, you know.
Picking up on the Magritte theme, I've been fascinated with his camera work, and going back to this concept that Marcel Duchamp developed, that he said in the future artists will point their finger and create art. And I have been fascinated. It's like Marcel Duchamp is, you know, this is really the personification of what he was talking about, because everywhere the camera is pointed, there is art created. Or is that like
playing off of each other?
Yeah.
So the more when one person does something, the other people come back and play off of that. And every time something new is added, each of us react to it differently. So there's always something ongoing, no matter what. I mean, this could go on.
It's all very frontal right now.
Right.
Some of it, we gotta get some distance.
Exactly.
The depth and the challenge.
Yeah, we've got to push some of it back into the background, so because it's very planar. Right.
We're used to going from the surface out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here we have surfaces against us, and we have to push in.
That's exactly.
And it's a
right.
stretching. It is a stretcher.
So what do you think? It's about time to go back to work here?
Here we have Marcel Duchamp here
Yeah.
pointing.
Yeah, let's get
Back to work.
Can we come back later and talk
Later
about
on,
it?
we can, sure.
Okay, maybe right before we get to that 5% difficulty.
I want to say also that the beginning is equally as important as the end. I thought the first mark was the one that started the whole.
Thank you.
Oh, we're so glad that you took that responsibility.
That is, it's a tough.
Because once you
where to
made that
begin.
first one, I was ready.
Electronics that goes into the medium that I work in, which is video. It's still, you can't get away from the fact there's still a human factor there as far as the creative part. All the electronics make things work, but it's actually the artist behind how those, I guess you would say, electrons make the pictures or tell the story. As far as the creative nature that comes out of the work that I do in video. I want to think that for me personally, on a personal level, the creative aspect comes from my childhood. I consumed a whole lot of things as I was growing up, and as a child, you're able to, you know, play and make believe, make people up and draw things and those kind of things. And as you grow up, it becomes part of your subconscious, and when you get to an aspect in your life, such as being a video person, you're able to release some of that stuff that's been built up over the years, and to me, that's where the creative concept originates.
Engaged, I think you have to transcend a time frame that is now, or maybe engage now by transcending the time frame of this real world. There's like a floating sensation. Time has no more relevance once creativity is engaged. It becomes a very, it's not divisive. There are no sections in thinking and feeling and acting. Creativity is kind of a coordination of all of that in a willful way. There's, it's difficult to describe. When it all goes together, there's a feeling when you're engaged in a creative act that is different than walking down the street or any other pedestrian activity. There's a joyfulness and expansiveness. It's as if you've transcended this time and you're linked with, there's sort of a linking with all time and all creative acts that's wonderful. It can be done individually or it can be part of a group project, and I think that's one of the things that the United Art Workers do well together. We join somehow on a creative plane that is different than the one everybody lives on.
Originates in the spirit that's inside of every person. And I think our society mostly calls that God. However, we're not really aware, or we try not to think about God. And in our society, since we push God away, it comes up in the area of creativity. And I think in our society also, the one person that's allowed to be creative or to access that God spirit is the artist.
Something interesting about the composition that I produced for this project is that I used D as my home note meaning the note that I constantly repeat throughout the project, the note that I built the whole project on. And what that does is give the mind a place to center when they're listening to a song that has a very erratic rhythm combinations to it. Now, 40 octaves up from D from what I've read is the color orange. And orange corresponds with the center of creativity according to chakras. Now, my belief on chakras vary one way or the other, but I still find it extremely interesting that when you look at the painting, the color that has surfaced is orange. And not only it has a surface, it is the center of the energy. It's got that fire right through the center, which is orange. You could say, well, this is just pure chance or luck, and I would say it definitely could be chance or luck, but you have to admit it. It's interesting. There's 6 of us that are painting on that thing. Any of us can change and work off each other. If I put something and someone else doesn't like what I put down, they can change the color of it. They can paint over it. Somehow, naturally, that color seemed to surface and stay, and maybe it was felt natural for the artists. Another thing that I really enjoyed was the last 5 or 10 minutes of the project. It seemed like the technicians, the camera, the switchers, the artists, sound, all came together in this multimedia jam.